Go.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian. I'm here with Allison, and this is the latest episode of Maintaining Frame, number 133. Men, you need these political beliefs or you're undateable. Yes. Beware
Yes.
of becoming the red flag. How do
Yes.
you know you're becoming a red flag? Well, we'll tell you when you cross the line. That's basically how this works. So, there
Remember,
you go.
always assume the political beliefs of your betters.
Yes. Yes. Obviously, that's true.
Yeah, I was just
And
talking on Twitter about that. It's like not only all of this rhetoric around men centering their lives on becoming desirable to women, not only financially and physically, but also politically. You can't neglect your consciousness raising as a man. You must also adhere to the whatever corpo speak is most current, essentially. So we're here to inform you all on what you need to believe if you want to be dateable. Yep. Okay. All right. So before we get into it, I just want to remind everyone, if you enjoy the content of this show, or even if you don't, and you just want rage bait to enjoy in a ragey way, please go to feedthebadger.com/support to support the making of the show for this month. And if you would like to send us a tip, and there's also the option to send a comment with that tip, wink, nudge. You can do so at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. We will endeavor to read your comments or thank you for whatever tip you sent. So once again, feedthebadger.com/support to support the show, and feedthebadger.com/justthetip to send us a tip. All right, back to you, Brian. Do you want to just give us the rundown on?
yeah,
I mean, I can tell you the overall context. We have a person, Richard Beer. I think you guys are aware, and he requested a number of videos, and I selected these ones because I thought it was an interesting topic to talk about enforced politics, the expectation that you toe the line, or I guess you get frozen out from the marketplace of
if you don't believe what women say you should believe, then you are not deserving of love or companionship.
Yes, exactly. So I figured that this would be a good topic to cover since it seems to come up a lot, and in particular recently we've dealt with the 4B sex strike because of the recent win in the U.S. elections of someone who is undesirable, according to liberal women.
Absolute chud, yes.
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, because of that, it just seems like it's important to cover what men should be doing to make sure that they retain their access to the pussy cartel. Shall we call it that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, having said that, why do you want to just do the overview?
Yeah. So I got 3 videos. I don't know if they should be done in any certain order, and we could just get to but I'll summarize the 3 videos. So first we have this video from somebody named Furley P, who's pictured here. You guys should see. I'll show you all on the vertical. And they have a video called Dating Homophobic Guys is Stupid, where they essentially make the case that, well, this girl, she makes the case that homophobic men are basically misogynist men, because it's the same thing. And you're probably wondering, how is that possible? But we will show you, because she will rant about it. And then there was someone named Xander Hall, which I think is like a bread tuber. I'll just jump ahead so you see him. And he made a video responding to her video where he basically just said, yes, queen, she's getting it. She's totally right about everything. I wish men weren't such pieces of garbage. Also, physiognomy check. And he basically just rants about how great she is for like 50 minutes and co-signs everything. So if Richard Beer sent this through, I would ask, I don't think there's a need for us to respond to his response to her, because he's just agreeing with her on everything. And maybe he expands it in a kind of bread tubey, like word salad way, while she's just more like, at least, from the heart, I guess, or the black heart that she has. So I guess there's that. And then the third video is from someone named Jamie Dodger, who is essentially talking about how undeserving of empathy someone has because they are being perceived as homophobic. And this person is a trans man, if that matters. I think it does because there's something about trans men. I don't know what it is, but they hate men a lot despite becoming men. It's just a weird thing. Like they don't think misandry is real.
Mm.
So yeah, but those are the 3 videos that I was given.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess we could start with her.
Yeah,
Because
sure.
okay. All right,
Let's
let's
do
do
it.
that. All
I think,
right. So
be
I'm
the
just gonna
master of
go,
ceremonies, makes the
yeah,
decision.
I'm just gonna go to the first time code here. So I'll just let her open up with her thoughts.
Dating a homophobic man is literally one of the silliest decisions you could ever make in your life. It's so stupid, so dumb. Do not do it. Do not do it. And no, this is not one of those, oh, if he's homophobic, that means he's probably gay on the inside. No. I hate when y'all do that. I freaking hate when y'all do that. Like, I'll act like every single man who's homophobic, oh, it's just because he's just secretly gay. Stop it. Stop it. Literally stop it. That is so problematic. Stop being that way. You're weird. You're weird. Stop. I'm going to continue yelling at you. Before I continue, I want to introduce myself. Hi, guys. Welcome.
Okay, so yeah, I guess. I mean, it's not a great argument when people say, "Oh, you seem to really not like gay people. Maybe you're gay." Yeah, that's a really stupid thing to say, but I think the reasons why I think it's dumb and why she thinks it's dumb are
Yeah,
probably
probably
not the
pretty
same.
different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're probably not the same.
We're not the
Uh,
same.
no, exactly. Exactly. All right.
Okay.
So let me jump ahead. So she's going to talk about the connection, I guess, between masculinity and misogyny. But before we do, I did get a super chat that I should read.
All
Zarian
right.
gave us $5 and says, you need to do a cheer, Allison. Castro is leaving. When he leaves, you do the dance of joy.
Okay. I'm not
What is
exactly
the dance of joy?
Camille dancing. I don't know.
Oh,
No.
I thought it was like dun, 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 dun,
Wait,
dun,
wait,
dun,
wait.
dun, dun, dun.
Okay, let
Okay.
me see. No, do it again. Do it again. Let's see.
Dun, 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 dun.
I have too much
But
stuff. Remember, I'm
the
in the
lib
nest of
they're
wires, and
gonna
if I touch
yeah, they're
anything.
gonna replace him with somebody, and they might be worse. So let's hope
Yeah,
not. Let's
exactly.
hope not. But you're not out of the woods yet.
No,
So
no.
anyway,
Yeah, the liberals are still in power, so I'm like, yeah, well, they might have thrown him under the bus, but who knows? Maybe
yeah.
they'll end up just, getting their reptilian empire spaceships in orbit and be like, nope, we're staying forever. Forever. Eat the bugs, humans. I don't know. Like yeah, it's there's so much damage though, and as much as I know a lot of people put their faith in Polyev and the conservatives, I am not sure if they're gonna reverse it. So we'll see. We'll see if anything actually happens for the betterment of Canada.
Yeah.
Starting to feel like our leaders don't give a crap about us. But anyway,
Here's
so we'll
hoping. All
see.
right.
Here's
So
hoping.
let's listen to this section.
Being because of the fact that they're of another sexual orientation, I'm already like disgusting, wouldn't touch you, wouldn't kiss you, would not want to be anywhere near you. It's disgusting, and it reminds me of like when things happen to girls
What
and
this has
make
she
men.
defined her terms? Like at any point
Um
in this screed, did she say, well, this is what I mean by homophobic? Because could it be that she means that
well, it's she does throughout, it's sprinkled throughout. It's things like being homophobic is tied to toxic masculinity. That's what I'm getting at. So like if you're a guy and like she basically kind of like puts words in the mouths of men to say, "Oh, like guys that like hug each other or they wear pink or they're into dolls or it's that usual like old argument and that she claims that they say, "Oh, that's gay. I'm not doing that. That's gay." And so she thinks that when men essentially like are not comfortable doing or being feminine or comfortable with feminine behavior in themselves, she calls it homophobic. And so that's where that comes from. And that's sort of like a byproduct of the conversation around toxic masculinity, right? So I think it is a tool of coercion being used on men, because think about it. If a woman wants to do male things, nobody says that there's anything wrong. In fact, it's embraced, like by men and women, mostly men though, right? Like if a woman says, "Oh, I'm gonna go into, I'm gonna change the tire on my own car," most men are like, "Great, that's like one thing I don't have to do," right? And they don't think that that's a masculine. Women don't, like, we don't force it on them. We don't say you have to do these things. But when men are doing things that they think that they like, and those things happen to be things that we typically associate with being men, then it's like there's something wrong that they have to fix. And when they try to make men do things like, wear high heels or go to a drag show or something, like that men don't want to do, even if it's something that isn't even necessarily like coded female, whatever that means, like going to a musical, let's go see some musical theater. If a guy says, no, that's not really my thing, then that will be like, oh, I guess you have a problem with feminine stuff, right? So it is a method of coercing men and getting them to normalize something that they don't enjoy by making it seem like it makes you a bad person if you don't do it. So I'm just in the camp of leave men alone. That's basically it's like,
maybe stop judging them so much. I don't think that's possible.
Exactly. All right, but anyway, so that I think that she's talking about how, I don't know. Let's just listen.
Because of the fact that they're of another sexual orientation, I'm already like disgusting, wouldn't touch you, wouldn't.
Right. So she's saying if you don't like somebody because of their sexual orientation, it disgusts her. That's what she's expanding on, the whole like don't date a homophobic man, right? But she doesn't really define homophobia. In this, it's the hate that mutates. It's like misogyny. It's whatever it needs to be at the time. Like literally, like if a hurricane hits a population that is predominantly Latino, they will say that hurricanes are racist, and you can't actually tell them that doesn't make sense because they decide when it's racist or whatever it is, whatever istophobia is at play.
Yep.
Wouldn't kiss you, would not want to be anywhere near you. It's disgusting, and it reminds me of like when things happen to girls, and in order to make men care, they're like, well, what if it was your girlfriend? What if it was your mom? What if it was your daughter? What if it was your niece? And I'm like, it's so gross that I have to be like, what if this person was connected to you? Yes, okay, now that you've pictured you being affected, can you extend some of your humanity towards this other individual?
Like, I would imagine, I'm just going to go out on a whim and take a wild guess that she has never considered a single men's issue in her entire life. And in fact, if someone brought that issue up to her, she probably would consider it an attack against men or against women. Like, I don't know. What do you think are the odds that if anyone brought up a men's issue to her, she would consider it an attack against women? And it's not, when they say it's an attack against women, they mean that it's an attack against their identification with victimhood as a woman. I'm pretty sure she would. So she's saying, absolutely. Well, how come we have to say, well, what if it was your girlfriend? What was your daughter? Because people are humans and they tend to care about those closest to them. It's just a rhetorical trick. But I doubt you would even care if somebody said, hey, what if it was your father? What if it was your son? You'd probably still consider it an attack to bring up a men's issue and just say, hey, extend yourself to understand this. So don't give me this crap. And I'm just looking at this person. I'm like, you're just living in your own little freaking world that you never get out of. And the presumption at the heart of this is that things only happen if they happen to women.
That's right.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Let me see. I think there's some more on this.
That is so gross. That is so messed up. And I know this is not what this video is about, but I'm just saying, I just hate that people have to do that anyway, that people have to tell you this is how it's going to affect you for you to care. Like, you should just care about the fact that someone's getting hurt.
That became some kind of weird escalation there, or a weird slip. What if it happened to your wife, your mother, your daughter, your sister? Why do men have to feel like it can happen to them? Did you notice that? Like, lady, something happening to a man's wife, isn't that thing happening to the man? You know, he has his own separate experience of things happening to him. It isn't just removed like a memory, a memory card, and then her experience of things happening is inserted in. Like, there's no spot inside men that experiences things happening to them. They're just, the only thing that they experience that happens to them is things that happen to their female relatives. Like, did you notice that? It's just weird.
Mm-hmm.
No. And it's really telling. It's like,
yeah, for sure.
Things that happen to a man's wife aren't things that happen to him. Right? They're things that happen to his wife. And needing to relate it to somebody you care about is just human. It's not, it's so solipsistic, and I can't articulate it completely, but I can feel it.
What she seems to be saying is, if a man is only going to feel compassion for someone who, like, if a man is going to feel compassion only for people that he is close to, then this means that he is not in himself an actually compassionate person, because the reason why he's feeling compassion for someone like a mother or sister or wife is purely out of self-interest. Like, the fact that my mother or wife is hurting, it actually bothers me, and that's the only reason why I care. Is that what she's saying? Like that? So it is essentially saying, I am, my wife, the women in my life being like dealing with suffering is only something that I care about because I ultimately suffer. And so it's still out of self-interest. Is that what that she's suggesting? And that men are bad people because they don't care about women in the most abstract sense. At least that's her claim. I think they do. But I think that's her claim, right? Is that men don't care, like they shouldn't have to know them to care about them.
Yeah, exactly.
But she doesn't, like, if I said a man, these are the things that men deal with, she would probably not, like, she would probably find it ridiculous that I would even bring that up, right?
Yeah, like I said, I get the feeling, especially from that she doesn't even comprehend that there's an entire universe of things that happen to men.
No, of course not. No, of course not. Yeah, that would be ridiculous. You know what? I hate to bring this up, but it is funny. It reminds me of something that Natty said when I had her on my fireside chat, and I said men in general care about women, and I did not, because I know she's triggered by the gynocentrism word. I didn't mention that. I didn't say that at all. I just said men in general care about women. I think it's obvious by what we have built for civilization, so that women could like live comfortably, not just safely, comfortably. And her response was, they care about their women, which is basically to say that men only care about their women. They don't care about women in the abstract. And I'm like, yeah, but if all men care about all their women, then everybody cares about women. So like it works out. It's like, you pick up your little, like if you have a whole room and it's full of like various like responsibilities and labors and service to people, and everybody picks up their little piece and they do it, then all of a sudden all of that is taken, or at least most of it is. Some people take more than others or whatever, but in general it's done. So when women say, well, men care about their women, not women, that's what she's saying. Well, yeah, so what? I
Yes,
mean, do
exactly.
women care about men in the abstract? I don't think so. So,
No,
you
I
know,
don't even
they
think
care
a lot
about
of women
maybe
care
the
about.
men in their lives. Maybe, you know, if
A
they're like
lot
their
of women
sons
don't
or
seem
something.
to care about men in their lives, or if they do, and this is something that's actually really tragic and it bothers me because I see all the time young men or especially young men being destroyed by the things that we talk about, and the women in their lives can extend compassion only to the point where it challenges their perception of being the biggest victims, and then it dissipates.
Mhm.
And it doesn't go any further than that. And it's because women have identified with victimhood as an essential component of femininity, of womanhood. And when you challenge that as a man, it's like you're attacking women themselves. Even though I would propose that women are not synonymous with being victims, and in fact we need to decouple these two concepts in order to go forward with anything resembling a reasonable situation for the human race. And that's a lot of words. So basically, what I mean is, I think that women's addiction to victimhood is destroying us. And I could give you the receipts, but that would be quite the digression from the actual topic today. So, or would it? Would it be a really digression?
Well, we have a lot of content.
Yeah, we got
to
a lot of
cover,
content to
so
cover. So let's go. I won't
yeah.
get into it.
All
But
right. All right, let's get it. Let's continue. This could be its own show, though, what you're talking about.
And be like, I don't want people to get hurt, and I don't want people who are bullies or people who are disgusting or people who treat people like shit to be around me. But if you need more, I got you. So the reason that I say it is literally not even just like bad. It's high key like a little. It's even sometimes a little dangerous and stuff to be with a guy who's like super homophobic or super transphobic to trans women especially, right? Because like if you think about how boys were raised.
Okay, hold up. So let's just okay. What is it to be transphobic to women? And when she says women, she means trans women. Okay. So if you have
no, she
I
might
don't
actually mean women, period.
no, I mean I think she's referring to trans women when she says transphobic to women because she thinks trans women are women.
Mm.
Um, and I don't think that I think that a man who is basically having his like I don't know sexual preferences challenged, let's say, by women like this, because that's what they do. They push their men's buttons. They test their boundaries all the time with stuff. So like if you brought a trans man around a man, he
Mm.
probably wouldn't even care because there's literally nothing there for him, right? No interest, there's nothing like I went to school with trans men and I didn't even learn they were trans until like near my graduation. And they came out and told me because they were drunk and, and I was like, oh, okay, like whatever. You didn't have a
Yeah.
shot anyway. Like, so I mean, you have a beard, right? But I think that the thing is that trans men are not in a position to I don't know, sort of like be, in a vulnerable place where they're being like sexually pushed on men. I think that trans men do probably have lots of unfortunate encounters with women if those trans
Mhm.
men are interested in women, but that's not something we generally hear about because it doesn't make headlines the same way a trans woman does. But I
Mhm.
think that what she's getting at is like if let's put it hypothetical, okay? So you have a woman here, she's modern, she's progressive, she probably believes in polycules and shit like that. She's dating a guy and then she's like, I want you to meet my friend, Ebony or whatever, and it's like a trans woman. And
Mhm.
Ebony's like, we should like have a threesome. And the guy's like, no, I'm not into that. That's transphobia to her. That's what I'm
Oh.
getting at, right? So if it's like, oh, you're not you don't think that tranny poon is the same as regular poon, well, you must be transphobic. Like, why would she even bring it up if the goal wasn't to try to cut men down for preferences? Like, we used to be able to just have preferences, right? And people
Mhm.
still do, but they're not allowed to talk about it. And that's kind of an extreme example, but like there's like, for example, I could ask her like, do you prefer white guys, Latino guys, or black guys? And whatever her answer is, it doesn't really matter. I get to call her prejudiced because
racist.
she's
Yep.
got preferences, right? So this is what I'm saying. Like, this is a tool to try to control people's preferences.
Mhm.
And the reason why we've gotten to the point now where a man who doesn't want another man's she-ness in his butthole is a bigot because he didn't take it, right? And this is where we are. And it started when people said, you know, people should probably not be prejudiced. And that sounded like something that made sense on the surface. But now we're at the point where you can't have any preferences at all. This is
Well-
like well, I mean, like, not without being criticized, unless they're the right kinds of preferences, in which case then that's a constantly shifting goalpost too, because, you know, like, what happens if, I mean, the feminists are sort of like having to deal with this themselves, because, you know, like, the intersectionals will say, well, you know, if that you know, convicted rapist identifies as a woman, you got to send him to a female prison. And the TERFs or whatever, the second wave feminists, are going to be like, well, this is misogyny. It's like, but you created this problem.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Well, it's the thing is that it's being pushed by, well, it's the foundation of it is the idea that women aren't constrained by biology but by oppression. That's where that comes from. So to maintain women's moral dominance over men, you have to deny the effects of biology in history, because it's not men's laws or actions that restricted women. It was biology. It was the biological necessity of childbirth, lactation, child rearing, also the physical limitations that come with that. That's what if you changed all the laws throughout history, the situation of women would not have changed. All those laws did was obligate men to provide for women when they were incapable of doing so, like incapable of providing those things. And because of that, because they want to assert that it is custom or socialization and not biology that the status of women in the past, in order to maintain that moral dominance, they opened the floodgates to the question of what is gender, what is sex, what is sexual identity, and all of that stuff. And now they don't like the consequences, and yet this was all instituted because certain groups of women requested it, and then they browbeat men into getting it for them. So they're taking something that's the result of men listening to women and calling it misogyny. It's like, well, yeah, fine. You can call everything misogyny and just live in a void of meaninglessness, never able to actually make any functional change. Or you do make functional change, and any possible negative of that functional change immediately gets put on men, and you never improve, never grow, never learn any better, and you basically run a society into the ground because you refuse to become a better person or to learn from your mistakes, because you offload those mistakes onto men, right? So it's like you were saying, it's all this is a result of women in academia asserting a particular narrative, and that's the end result, is this entire explosion of the alphabet mafia. And then you have things like this. You have this woman who's essentially forcing compliance on men, that they have to accept these people or they will be socially ostracized. And that's another thing that they like. I recently came across a J.K. Rowling tweet blaming men, or at least the men who have become indifferent to this whole thing, for this problem. And somebody said, well, she also blames women. And I'm like, well, show me. No answer. So she blames men for complying to women's demands, for the fact that they respond to the power that they have given women, the power that women requested, and then apparently misused, but refused to take responsibility for it and just offload the blame onto men. And this is an example of this kind of pressure, this expectations placed on men by women to toe the party line, to embrace the alphabet mafia. But the other thing I wanted to mention, when you started in on how this just is like, this is becoming men have to comply sexually. Well, have you noticed that our society has sort of an iffy relationship to men's consent?
Yeah. Oh, for
Like,
sure. Always has,
it,
right?
it's
Yeah.
almost like men's right to consent to what happens to their body is seen as itself almost criminal. Like it's like you don't have any right over your own body. I mean, it's something that you would expect from cultures that would would conscript men and send them to die to protect themselves, of course. You can't have men regularly feeling that they should have a complete right over their body and where their body is sent and what happens to it. So you end up with activists like this who think that men's consent is a bargaining chip. Now, I don't know if she goes that far, but there was the super straight thing where people were saying that men are transphobic if they don't find trans women attractive. You know, and I'm not like saying if you're a man who finds a trans woman attractive, I'm not saying you like you should be like I'm not calling you out or saying like you're a horrible person or anything. But a man who doesn't find a trans woman attractive has every right to to his preferences and his consent. And yet there's this perception with all of the fat phobia, the lookism, the ageism, is this perception that men's consent is public property to be extorted at will.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I think it starts with things like conscription, things like circumcision. And it also starts with our inability to recognize that men have the right to say no to women, period. And to support that legal right and to recognize that it's an epidemic. Women sexually aggressing against men. And if you don't want to look at like the sexual coercion, which I understand, like it gets into the weeds when you're talking about nagging people into sex and maybe giving them a glass of wine at dinner or lying about whether or not you really own that Porsche. You know, that's all like it's not honorable behavior, but is it criminal? So let's just look at women using force, threats of force. So if you don't give in to me, I will falsely accuse you. That is a threat of force. It's using the force of the state against you. Weapons and intoxication to the point of being blacked out. All right. When you look at those things, which are pretty much unequivocally rape, there is a huge amount of female sexual violence that nobody wants to address. And I think it's at the core of all of this. We don't respect men when they say no to women. As a result, we don't respect men when they say no to trans women, to fat women, to women of a race that they're not attracted to
really old women,
old women,
like, whatever,
ugly women. When they say no to even to other men for some reason, that becomes misogyny. You know, that's the slope, and it starts with we don't respect men's right to say no to anyone. And like I said, it's like men's consent has become a public issue. Like it's like discussed in the public when men should have the right to consent. Well, never, because their consent should be contingent on whether or not a woman wants to respect it. I mean, that's where the discussion on men's consent is. So it's always hilarious to watch feminists talk about, oh, if women were men, abortions would be available in every bar. You just have like a vending machine abortion. You know, you just walk in. And it's like, no, there is absolutely no reason to believe this because we don't respect men's consent as a society. Okay.
All right, I got a super.
Well, I mean, she can choose not to date homophobic guys, but you're right. There's a creeping thing that goes on here. It goes from she has a right not to date homophobic guys. We can extort men to comply with our political aims. And then it just sort of seems to creep into more and more. Like the boundary violation gets more and more and more. All right. I got to put my things back on because
she can choose, obviously, to not date homophobic guys. And she is, in fact, exercising discrimination by doing that. But I don't think there's anything wrong with discrimination. She does, but only in certain ways, right? Because so she is saying, I am going to discriminate against homophobic guys, which of course is like, how do you even define that? I think she's going to be excluding most men by her system of measurements, right? But that's okay. It's still your choice. But at the same time, she's saying that men are not allowed to have preferences or be able to discriminate or say no. And she doesn't
Mm.
even realize that she's engaging in that double standard. Um, because it doesn't matter to her, right? It's about she's creating a new hierarchy. It was never about hypocrisy. It's always about hierarchy, right? These things are okay and these things are not okay because I said so. And so if they have the social power or the clout, which I guess she is trying to get, she has 7,500 subscribers, so not a big channel, but she's going for it, right? She wants to be able to tell as many women as possible, this is what you should do. And of course, by doing that, she's also engaging in another form of discrimination because she's trying to dictate how women should select men. So it's not just that she's doing this for herself, she's also demanding that other women do it, and she's also demanding that other men fall in line. So there is still a tremendous amount of, authoritarian pressure coming out of this person, while they're also claiming that discrimination itself is bad. So, but anyway, I got a super chow from Death to Zionism and Feminism for $5. And he says, hey, Allison, how much would it cost to sponsor a stream and have you cover some wholesome white pill video clips of family videos? Women have social power over families and society. One of the powers they have is secret recipes. Grandmas use secret recipes to bring families together for special occasions. Only when they are on their deathbed do they share the recipe with who they believe will keep the tradition alive. Yeah, well, family is kind of dead for a lot of people.
Yeah,
I mean, it's definitely on the decline. It's on the decline.
In the secular wasteland.
Yes, in the secular wasteland, exactly. The secular hellscape of girl bosses and men who can't get jobs because they've been given to girl bosses. But yeah, thank you for that. So yeah, how much would it cost to sponsor a video? I guess is the ultimate question.
Well, Richard Bier and Quran Strong, it depends. Like if you get us like time codes, specific things that you want us to respond to, not too much. Like usually it's if we have to go through it, it's 500 is been the going rate. But if you get us time codes, 250. Like, and if you want to just send us a links and we like it, we might do it anyway. So
yeah, you could just send us some videos and say, like, could you look at this, and then maybe we'll look at it if we like it.
Yeah. Okay.
So, all right. Anyway, back to the video. She's going to talk about, toxic masculinity stuff. So let's get into it.
A lot of them, like, look at like little boys in your life and see how their parents talk to them. There's a very big thing where they will teach these little boys, or they'll be like, hey, don't do that. That's for girls, or that's gay. Don't listen to that. That's for girls, or that's gay. Are you crying? That's what bitches do. That's for girls. That's what gay... I almost said the N-word, sorry. But that's what gay men do. You know what I mean? Like they're constantly like, they'll be like, oh, you can't play with that toy. That's for girls. That's gay. So ever since boys have been very, very...
So, okay. She's making all of it is socialized argument.
Yeah, but who's doing the socializing? Let's be honest.
Well, it could be. I mean, mothers these days, probably mostly mothers. But like,
let's be honest.
I also don't think I don't think it's really socialized, though. I don't think that boys are drawn to like.
This way.
Okay.
If it is socialized, it's done by mothers.
Yeah, if it to the extent it is socialized, it is probably mostly mothers, if not at least for the fact that fathers are generally not in the home anyway.
Well, but also fathers don't necessarily enforce this stuff as much. That's what I've seen in the study that I've looked at on this issue. And here's the other thing. It's this, and this is, I think, even more critically important than, not wanting your son to play with Barbie. Mothers have a really difficult time with a lot of their son's emotional expression, right? So they don't like to see their son angry. They don't like to see their son sad. It's almost like their son's should not have emotions. And that, I think, is more critical than encouraging kids to keep to their particular sex markers, right? Because you're teaching your child that a huge part of him is unacceptable to you. And we don't address that. I think that's like, I think that's really critical. It's more critical. Like, for example, I watched this video of this husband and wife, and they were arguing. Their son had apparently, allegedly, chosen a girl's backpack that was really, 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 really pink. And the mother was like, oh, he should be able to express himself. And the father was like, no, he is absolutely not going to the school with that backpack. Right now, honestly, I think it's probably a coin toss if that kid was actually expressing himself or his mother was like, you want the pink one, and he did it just because she to please her. But regardless, the father is thinking about his experience, his emotional experience. The mother is thinking about making a political statement, because in a lot of ways,
Yeah, the father's worried about him being bullied.
yes, in a lot of ways, mothers I don't think they comprehend that their sons have emotions. They don't understand that that's a little being with its own internal life. And it's because they have a very uncomfortable relationship with the emotions of their sons.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's far more important than whether or not, Johnny wears a pink whatever for the correction of whatever's going on in society. But let's
okay.
Yeah,
Well,
let's
let's keep in mind that this is the argument of essentially of the blank slate, and that for whatever reason it only applies to boys. Like you don't ever hear it in the other direction, right? So okay.
Young people have been ingraining into their minds how bad it is and how disgusting it is to do things that are considered girly or that are considered feminine or whatever, right? And so if you are dating someone or if you are letting a guy into your life who has that kind of mindset, 99.9% of the time, he is also going to be a misogynist. Also, he is going to view things that are feminine as beneath him, as lower, as something that he just should not do and he should avoid at all. Like, because it went from like,
So this is another self-report in case you couldn't tell. So men not being comfortable, or at least just not feeling at home with like feminine things as defined by her, not like in some sort of like, standard way, but her definition of what that is actually proof of misogyny in the man. And she's the one that she believes that if a man says I'm not comfortable with that, she interprets that as a man thinks he's better than that. And so she is also again applying her hierarchy of what is acceptable to the man, even though it's not being comfortable with something, or you saying that's just not my thing, I'm not into that. Like if I say, hey, you want to listen to some fucking some Flyleaf, some goth music, some Black Parade or whatever, My Chemical Romance, and you said I'm not really into that. If I said, oh, you think that that's beneath you, that's what no, it doesn't mean that. It just means it's not your thing. Like some people like Candy Crush. I don't think that it's beneath me. Okay, I do, but that's a different thing. I'm just saying, like, but she's guess what I'm saying is that she's framing it in a hierarchical sense, as opposed to
which is really funny,
it being preferences, right?
Because as she's doing this kind of dichotomy, she probably buys into a dichotomy in which men, like, she can't accept men's feelings, any kind of feeling of vulnerability. So she probably very much categorizes men as agent and women as victim or vulnerable. And those two categories can never be mixed. And yet she's talking about how men who want to keep their own signifiers and assert their own identity as men as being hateful It's like, well, you already buy into a dichotomy, lady. And you already probably would be horrified at any man who genuinely violated the dichotomy that you buy into. So, I mean, that's a conjecture. Maybe she doesn't.
What
Maybe
if-
she's a secret men's rights activist.
But does she like, maybe she, sometimes I wonder, do women who do this value men validating their opinions so much that they will shame them into it? Like they really want men to co-sign their bullshit, and they value it so much, but they don't have what the real courage to say, I'm not really secure in my beliefs, but I need you men to co-sign on those for me so I can feel better about them, but I'll shame you into doing it. I don't know.
Mm.
Sometimes like, because like, why does she care what men prefer? And like, why does she feel the need to essentially control men at like the most, broad level by saying, don't be a homophobe, otherwise women won't date you. It's not just I won't, because if she just made a personal choice to be like, I don't want to date guys that are like this, like nobody would care. I'd be like, yeah, sure, okay, whatever, I guess I'm not dating you then, or whatever, right? But no, it's got to be more. It's got to be like all women should reject all men that engage in this behavior until all men validate what I'm saying. It's almost like women don't want you to solve their problems. They just want you to say that you sympathize, and then they'll be like, you can move on. but I think men should refuse to do that. No, I'm not giving you any validation.
Yeah.
You're just wrong. So
The problem is that sometimes it's just bullshit. Like it sometimes it's not even that it's not about the nail. It's that the nail doesn't exist at all.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Let's keep going.
All right.
Are we doing this whole
Adults
thing?
and other
No. I want to, let me see. I want to get to there's a section where she talks about red flags. But so there's 2 more sections, and then that's it. So
Okay.
people conditioning those boys that like, you can't cry, you can't play with a certain toy, you can't wear a certain color because that makes you girly or that makes you gay. They were like beat. And
Okay,
like,
that's it. I'm issuing a challenge. I'm throwing the gauntlet down. All of you people who say that men can cry, please give me a bullet point list of what you feel it's acceptable for men to cry about. What do you feel it's acceptable for them to express pain about? Right? And I want you to strike off all of that list if it involves the pain of a woman. Right? And when you have a list of what it is acceptable for men to cry about that doesn't actually involve the experience of a woman's vulnerability or victimhood, then you can say, you can complain about men not crying or men enforcing not crying on other men. All right. Then you can start talking about that. But until you do, you are full of shit. Just like the whole, there's positive masculinity. Well, say it. You give me an example of positive masculinity equal to your examples of toxic masculinity. Again, crickets usually with that one. Well, here's another gauntlet. Tell us what men can legitimately cry about before you tell men that they should be able to cry, or that they should take responsibility for not crying, or for other men not crying, or whatever it is. Say what they should be, what they legitimately can cry about as men, not for women, but as men. Just saying. Okay, continue.
All right.
Box woman.
Yeah.
And when they got to school, other little boys were doing the same thing to them. They were also teaching them like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? That's so gay. Are you giving me a hug?
All right. So one other thing I want to say too is that, like, if these boys are getting this from their mothers, which they probably are mostly, their mothers are actually preparing them for women in the real world.
Yeah.
Like, their mothers are saying, this is what I expect. Now, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but like, to the degree that these things are imprinted, women are doing it because women know what they're not attracted to. And men who are all in their feminine era, as the Zoomers say, are not attractive to women. They're like, to most women, at least. So they're just doing that for them, and then these women are being well, you know what I also think about this Furley P person? This is not a thinking person we're dealing with. This is a person who has been programmed to regurgitate talking points, which is why we always hear the same arguments. They learned this in school. They learned this in their TVs, in their interviews with Taylor Swift. They saw it on their media, and they're just going out and regurgitating it and saying this must be the case because people I like have said this. My teachers have said this. So I don't think she really knows what she's talking about. She's just regurgitating and hope. And then other people, like a baby bird gets from their mother who regurgitates the food into their mouth. The other women are watching this, are going to take it in like baby birds, and they're going to go and regurgitate it into other birds. And that's why the Brits call them birds. I don't know. I just threw that in there. But I mean, like, this isn't a person that's making their own arguments. This is a machine that's just repeating the arguments. I'm sorry if you find that insulting, but I just, because I know what you're going to say before you say it. Like, nobody knows feminists' arguments better than non-feminists like us. Like, we know their shit better than they do, okay? So, anyway, I jumped ahead to a section called The Impact of Homophobia on Relationships. So let's find out how a homophobic man destroys relationships.
And if you do seem gay, that is the worst, most disgusting thing you could ever possibly be. Pay attention to like the whole Diddy situation. The Diddy situation made me so like, oh my God. Like, it's one of those things that have me like, I think someone was saying like, there are some black people who are like post-plantation, pre-education. And that I'm like, yes, literally that showed me that exactly. Because Diddy is someone who got arrested and who is being accused of doing so many horrific things to children, to minors, and just like, you know what I mean, like assault, putting things in people's drinks, doing all these horrible things. And so many people heard these cases and they were like, wow, that's gross. Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. And it wasn't until people were like, oh, and also he likes it in the butt. That is when people were like, oh my God, are you insane?
Well, maybe in your population.
I didn't even hear that.
Oh yeah, I mean, like the freak parties or the freak offs were basically giant orgies, but like they were, from what I understand, I mean, I didn't really look into it. It's not my bag, but they were basically giant orgies, which meant that there was going to be some, you know, man on man, woman on woman, whatever. But like at that point, it's like transcended being gay. It's something else. Like, I don't know what to call it, but it's like, it just turns into a Hieronymus Bosch painting.
Degeneract. It's a
yeah, that's what it is. It's just a complete like let's lose ourselves. I mean, it's not pan. It doesn't have a specific. It's just a massive orgy. And she's saying, oh, you know, it's homophobic because people like Cat Williams and others that spoke out on it, they use the, I guess you could call it the sodomy as like the sticking point. But maybe that's because it's the best way to get attention because of what we think about male sexuality already. So maybe that is. I don't know.
I didn't actually hear that bit. I just heard about the weird
baby oil.
Yeah, the gigantic vats of baby oil.
You need the oil, I guess.
I don't need to know anymore. And also, sodomy wouldn't be the sticking point with me. That would probably be any kind of inappropriate activity with minors.
Like, hey guys, smash that like button. It really helps the stream reach more people. I saw somebody in the vertical chat say hit the like button. So thank you, Final Midnight, for the suggestion. Yeah, like this is important content. I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, like what she's saying, I don't know. I'm gonna jump ahead. So basically, the problem with the Diddy parties is that gay. Not the and by the way, another thing too is how many people were going to these things knowing full well what goes on there. How many? I think it was probably a lot of them. Maybe even the majority.
I just want to say that this has definitely been one of the most animated freeze frames we've ever responded to.
Yeah, I know.
every frame is a freaking story.
It's high energy, that's for sure.
It's definitely
not
high
low
energy. Lots of
Yeah.
eye whites going on.
Yeah, lots of
lots-
crazy eyes.
Lots of crazy eye, lots of weird expressions. Like I should speak. I know I do a lot
right.
of weird expressions myself.
Last
so I
section
do.
for this video, which is about the red flags. So let's see what she says about that.
I'm the man. I'm the man. Like the second they like have that kind of thing, like
The red
girl,
flag tells
those
us about
kinds of-
red flags.
Yeah, yeah, men saying that they're men. Again, where are you? Like you seem to be speaking about very specific experiences. You probably are, but that doesn't define men. You're using anecdotes to make a broader point. It doesn't make sense.
It's almost
the
like
level of violence.
Huh?
honestly, it's almost like these are the type of men she likes, and she's trying to establish moral dominance over them in the hopes that she can basically trap them. It's like
Yeah.
it's like watching like a wildlife poacher bait a cage with a freaking part of an antelope carcass.
Some women want to be around men that I guess you could call really dominant, but
Mhm.
they do it because they think there's a challenge in trying to control them. But once they do, they lose interest in those men. So it's they kind of like screw themselves in that. You
Mhm.
know, like how about just be the rib, okay? Just be the rib, okay?
Okay.
Violence guys like that are capable of, the level of just like horrible treatment that they will give you as a woman, like it is like it can genuinely be very 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 scary, very 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 dangerous for you. Like I am being so honest with you, when I think like of the guys who are like scarily misogynistic in my life, like guys who are like the way how misogynistic they are, it's kind of like I'm dead ass scared to be around you when you're angry type of misogynistic.
That's not
What-
misogyny. That's violence. How did that become misogyny?
I mean, they're violent to other men, but you're afraid.
Well, but if
Is
you don't
that-
recognize male vulnerability, that's a free action, right?
Yeah.
Like she did. Are you telling me that these men are only violent towards women? They're not violent towards men? Because statistically, that wouldn't be the case. Usually, violent men are violent across the board and starting with other men because they can get away with it. But the other thing is that, are you truly saying that you don't want to sleep with these men? Because I just
But they're
feel a
the
little
men in
bit
her
about-
life though, Allison. So there's something like she knows men that she is supposedly afraid of. Like, why are you friends with these people?
Why are they exist in your
Are they like, is it like, are they family members? Because like if it's brothers or whatever, I don't see how they could make you feel unsafe. They're probably like the best people to know if there are men that are capable of violence, which I think that most men should be ready to do that if it needs to be, not necessarily because a woman says so, but just for their own sake. Or are you talking about men that you're actually dating, that you're dating because of those traits, but you also like want to be afraid of them?
Well, maybe it's a situation where these men are monstrous across the board, but she just wishes they wouldn't be so towards her. I mean, because if women just avoided men who are assholes to other
If
men,
men can point if women could point monstrous men towards, like, use that against other people. Like
Yeah.
women who want to be around violent men are, do that because they want to be able to use the violence of those men as a tool for their own survival or even thriving.
Mhm. So
Yeah.
maybe it's much more about controlling that particular. You know what? Let's just let her
All
lay
right.
out her thesis.
Yep.
Those guys will be the most homophobic people you will ever meet. Like, I swear to you, gay men just stay on their minds. Like, I can think of one right now. He'll be talking about like a certain area. Like, we live in Miami. He'll talk about certain areas in Miami.
live
and be
in
like, "Oh,
Miami?"
that area is so disgusting."
Yeah. There's a part of Miami that's very gay.
Yeah, but
Fort
also
Lauderdale?
me?
Oh no, Miami. No, not Miami. Fort Lauderdale. Florida
Why
is
why
gay.
isn't she talking about this man and saying we live in Miami? That's weird.
Yeah, it's because she's with this guy. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
She's
are you
with
with
the
this
guy
guy?
that she's complaining about. Well, maybe she wants to be, but he's too homophobic for her, but everything else
We
is
live in
she likes.
Miami.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's no we unless you're in a relationship with this dude. But okay, let's keep going.
Yeah.
Disgusting because there's always like gay people there. And I'm like, is it that serious? Like, I'm like, why do you care so much? Is it that serious? He's also the kind of guy that gets like so angry as a woman who like is just like whatever. He's the kind of guy that will watch Kevin Samuels and like the Fresh and Fit podcast unironically, not to make fun of them, but to be like, no, it's really.
So wait. She's with a dude that watches Kevin Samuels. Like that's the problem. See, Kevin Samuels, Allison? You don't know? He was like he passed away, unfortunately, R.I.P. to Kevin Samuels, but he was basically like one of these kind of, I don't know, relationship coach type guys, social dynamics, red pill manosphere guy, but primarily in the black manosphere. And he wasn't mean to women, but he was very direct with them. He would say, you know what, why would a man want to be with you if you don't have a job and you're and women would ask him to rate them and he would say you're a 4 and they would get really butthurt over it. But essentially what he was trying to do is he was trying to supposedly, I don't know, I didn't watch a ton of his content, but I know he's pretty popular. He was trying to like get women to just like be realistic about their expectations about what life is going to be like, about and it's kind of like what a lot of these other guys do, like the whatever podcast or Fresh and Fit or whatever. And apparently, so he's like her man, or this man, he watches this content, so this guy is at least on the road to being like a red pill manosphere type guy. And I guess it drives her insane that he doesn't watch that stuff just to make fun of them. So,
well, also, I can't help but point out that stuff doesn't reinforce women's moral dominance.
No.
And in fact, it punctures it. And nor does it reinforce this idea of women being synonymous with victims. In fact, it shows them as not being right. It shows them as being stupid and intellectually flawed. Is that misogyny though? Like, to be drawn to content.
Well, Allison, you were just talking about this earlier in the show. You said like where it all comes downstream from men being denied consent, like the ability to say no. And Kevin Samuels taught men to say no, like to have standards. And she hates the fact that men are learning to say no to women in particular.
Well, I don't watch a lot of Fresh and Fit, but what I have seen is them poking fun at, one thing that really sticks in my mind is the woman she called them a misogynist, and then he asked, well, what does misogyny mean? And she broke down crying. And it's like, you're absurd. You're not a serious person. You're using terms that you can't define. And that is puncturing the pomposity of these women. Is that really misogyny though? Like,
well, that's the thing though. They use it and they use it and they expect men to immediately say, oh my God, I overstepped a boundary. What do I do to fix this? I'm so sorry. And because instead they said, define that for me, because it's an attack. Like when a woman says you're a misogynist or they call you some kind of slur like that, they're attacking you. And if you apologize or you try to like run cover or you try to explain how, you try to use logic and reason to say, hey, look, I'm not that because XYZ, I love my mom and I have a sister and I'm married or whatever, then you've lost, because that they're putting you on the defensive. What you have to do is say, define that for me, because I don't buy it. And I'm not going to take that from you. That's abuse, because that's what it is. It's like a mini struggle session. You're a misogynist. Define that. And that's when they start crying, because it didn't work, because what they wanted was that emotional, oh shit, I'm sorry. Oh my God, I don't want to be, I don't hate women. I don't hate women. And so many guys, so many guys, no matter how supposedly base they are, if you call them, if a woman calls them a misogynist, they buckle like a belt. They go, oh, wait. I have a wife and I think she's fantastic. She's like, Dr. Phil, my wife is great. I think she's one of the great. If it weren't for her, I'd be homeless. You know, like just bends over backwards and his wife is smiling on camera. You have to say, no, that's an attack. Define that. That's what you have to do. And they will break down because it didn't work. Like it didn't even matter what it meant. What they wanted was your submission, and men have to say no.
And
So,
yes, that's exactly it. You go on the Fresh and Fit podcast, and these men just aren't submitting to the women as their moral betters. They're saying, no, you want to cash the moral better check, then your ass better be able to cover the cost, and it doesn't. Like, and I can't see that as misogyny. Because
it's not.
Why should women be considered men's moral betters to begin with? Like, we're supposed to be all equals. And if anybody is putting themselves, elevating themselves above the others, isn't that itself an attack? Like the Fashion Fit podcast, poking holes in these women's pomposity isn't misogyny. It's reestablishing a sense of moral equality between men and women. All right. And I think that that's probably why she doesn't like it, because moral. And it's interesting that I mentioned this even before she went into this, because I'm pretty sure I talked about her wanting to establish moral dominance over men she actually desires. Because she's awfully like this guy sounds like he's in her life somehow. I don't know if she's dating him or she wants to be dating him, but it sounds more like she wants to establish moral dominance over the men she finds attractive than anything else. Not that she's saying, well, don't date men who are homophobic because they're also interested in puncturing the pomposity of women, which, by the way, lady, there's a lot of gay and bisexual men who also enjoy puncturing the pomposity of women. So you're it's you're conflating two things that aren't naturally conflated. You can go find yourself a guy who likes wearing pink and sucking dick, and he can be just as amused by puncturing your ego as anyone else. Like, I'm thinking of Perez Hilton and Milo. Like, I'm pretty sure they had some fun puncturing egos. So, you're not going to necessarily save yourself by choosing a guy who's a little bit flamboyant, lady. Because that's what I'm getting at. Anyway, let's keep going.
All right, let's play a little bit more of this, and then I'm moving on to something else.
Yeah.
I got another, but there's a little bit more to this.
Really deep. You know what they're saying? It's deep. It's deep. I feel it in my soul. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, bro, what is it? Like, that level of hatred they have for gay men and trans women will also show itself in the way they view women, how they treat you. Like, if you go to them, you talk about women things, you talk about makeup, you talk about fashion, you talk about whatever, they will talk to you as if it's something that's so worthless, so stupid. Like, oh, see, females, that's the word. Females are so stupid. They will talk so much and have a lot to say. Like they're the kind of guy that people this. Like, you get tell them,
but
like,
you can be though. Like, you're saying females are so stupid. But yes, females are so stupid because they're human beings, and stupidity is an aspect of being a human being. And also, unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be a lot of impetus for women to overcome a lot of stupidity. Let's be frank, or laziness, because they are the table. Like, as soon as somebody says that, they're a lazy idiot. Like, when somebody says, I am the table, what they're saying is, I am a lazy idiot and I am self-righteous about it. Okay? So yeah, there are stupid women.
Do you really want men to be excited when you start talking about makeup? Like, don't you see? This reminds me. I was.
I'm pretty sure that's on an ick list somewhere.
I was hanging out with Lindsay like this morning. I think we were watching a video, and it was like a compilation of like different little clips of cringe. And there was one where there was this guy with, I think he was like a cashier or something. He had like black nail polish. And Lindsay was like, why does he have nail polish? And I said, I went to the store the other day, and like my local grocery store, and the cashier there also had black. It was a guy with black nail polish. And I was like, that might be like a trend. I don't know, with the Zoomers. And then I said, but what's funny about nail polish? Because Lindsay, she's like, I don't wear nail polish. I was like, yeah, I wouldn't think that you would, because I think that something like that is almost like having the free time and the luxury, money to like buy
right?
makeup. What?
She also
Lindsay. Well, she wears gloves for that, but like she was never like a big makeup person. Like she doesn't do lipstick. She, maybe mascara a little bit, but that's it. She doesn't do much with makeup. She was never into that. She's always been kind of a, like outdoorsy granola chewing, right? Exactly. She's just not into that. But we were talking about that, and I was talking about how makeup is, it's like, I mean, not an elite thing, but it's definitely like a, luxury thing. So if you think about it, if you're a girl like this person, and you have like the free time and the money, the disposable income to buy pre-trash. I don't know why I said it like that. I got dyslexic. Tree prash. No, pre-trash. Like clothes and outfits and makeup and all this other stuff. That's because you have, like, obviously you're not in a place where you're thinking about survival every day, because you're like, oh, let me just, get the new iPhone. Let me get the new whatever luxury item. So this woman's perception of reality is so distorted that she thinks men are also in that same headspace. And I bet that, like, if these men are doing anything, like the men that are in her life are like in any way sort of ambitious, let's say, or at least they're just maintaining what they have, they're not thinking about that. They're thinking about their job. They might be thinking about investing. They might be thinking about their car payments. They're not thinking about makeup. That's not interesting to them. Or their hobbies are completely separate. Maybe they're into basketball. Maybe they're into video games, or they like to watch movies. So they're not going to talk about makeup. Like, how many ways can you discuss that? Other girls can. Like, maybe you need girlfriends, and maybe you shouldn't be trying to make the men in your life into girlfriends because they're different. So I don't know. I just, it's funny that you can have so much, like luxury things to talk about, and that men that aren't interested in that because our headspace is just different. We're not thinking about those things. Even when everything is comfortable, I think men are often thinking about like threats, like what's out there, like they're, so I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah, they're not.
How much longer is the
no, this is this one. The second one. Okay, so do you want to go into the one?
Do we have any further to do this though with this one?
Not really. I mean, I think she ends it by talking about like that it's important for women to get respect from men, and that she likes men that are comfortable in their masculinity.
How do women get respect from men? Do you mean just women
like what they say? Just
no, but seriously, like, so women get respect from men. How? For what? Can you answer that?
What are you asking me?
No, I'm asking her if she had ever seen this. And I want the answer to the question. What is it men are respecting when you say that men should respect women?
Respect.
What about them? What about them? Okay. All right. Let's do the next one.
All right. So let's go into this one. It's sort of, this one is, so there's this one by Xander Hall, but it's just him agreeing with the last one. So I don't know if we can even add anything to that. I mean, I so I thought I would just jump into this one. So, all right, this is a trans man.
Well, okay. If we want to do the one where he's just agreeing with her, just find the most effusively, awfully simpy thing that he says, and let's look at that. But if not,
Want me to go to that one?
Do you have that time code? I don't want to do a whole bunch of this. Like,
I don't know. I mean, he talks about the intersection of misogyny and homophobia.
Oh, sure. Let's
Okay,
hear
all
that.
right.
Okay, so
17
basically we've
minutes.
gone from these men who deal like fresh and fit, what I've seen, maybe there's stuff that I haven't seen, but it seems to be that it's poking holes in women's moral dominance over men. But that invites the question, why is it that women should be morally dominant over men in the first place? So I don't consider that to be misogyny. To challenge someone's unfair dominance over you, that's pretty convenient. But anyway, go ahead and
All
let's
right.
play a little bit
All
of
right,
the
let me read a super chat that I just got from
Okay.
Death to Zionism and Feminism for $5, and he says, "I literally have a clip of an activist making a nurse defending MGM cry with a simple question on a radio show. She defended MGM and the Mayo, like the Mayo Clinic, you mean? So he
Mayo
asked
Clinic.
her what is the structure and function of the prepuce.
Prepuce.
She couldn't answer the question and started crying.
That's the part that's actually removed in
Mhm.
circumcision. Yeah,
Oh,
complete
okay.
ignorance. But that's the thing. That's what we're up against. This kind of self-righteous ignorance is leading to incredible harms against men. And as far as I'm concerned, if Fresh and Fit is poking holes in it, even if they're dumb themselves, but they're doing God's work. We can't continue with this unearned moral dominance of women over men.
Yep.
Okay, let's go.
Okay,
Let's hear it.
this is from Xander Hall. I hope this is the right place. Here we go.
And that's what bitches do. That's for girls. That's what gay. I almost said the N-word, sorry. But that's what gay men do. You know what I mean? Like, they're constantly like, they'll be like, oh, you can't play with that toy. That's for girls. That's gay. So ever since boys have been very, very young, people have been ingraining into their minds how bad it is and how disgusting it is to do things.
I'm trying to find where he starts talking. Hold on. He like plays her at double speed or whatever. So
things that are considered girly or that are considered feminine or whatever, right? And so if you are dating someone or if you are letting a guy into your life who has...
This is true. Even if you have a supportive household that wouldn't shame you for that kind of thing, it's still socially shamed to the extent that, like, boys and men self-impose that kind of expectation on themselves. I think a lot of people underestimate just
have
how
you
much
ever, sir,
of
Neanderthal, have you ever read a list like these ick lists that circulate from women? Have you ever noticed what's on those ick lists? I mean, I'm reading them and I'm like, everything that isn't what feminists term toxic masculinity is an ick for these women. Like anything.
It's almost like feminists intentionally
using
sabotage.
a Kleenex is an ick.
Yeah.
Using an umbrella is an ick. Taking naps is an ick. You know, like these ick lists are in anything that even speaks of a smallest amount of vulnerability and femininity has been widely circulated on Twitter by women and probably also TikTok and other places where, you know, social media, women's Call of Duty, you know, where they congregate. It has been circulated widely and widely liked by women. Do you think men don't notice? But of course, you're going to blame men because that's your dichotomy. All right. Sorry.
All right. I got a Rumble rant. Speaking of rants, from NovaFan21 for $1. And he says, notice they're only calling out men they deem problematic, but not how women and girls reinforce that quote unquote problematic male behavior. They'll probably call it a distraction. No, they never do, because like literally they're shaming men for trying to do things that women appreciate, and also what makes like what comes natural to men. But remember, and I think this is actually going to be pretty interesting, because Xander Hall and this woman, whatever her name was, I already forgot it, whatever, it doesn't matter. They're both saying that all of this stuff is socialized into men, purely socialized. And if it weren't for their mothers socializing them into this, they wouldn't be this way. Just keep that in mind.
The toxic expectations of society are more self-imposed than they are externally imposed.
What is society? Where is society, so we can find them and arrest them and put them into a struggle session so that society can change this? What is society?
The external expectations of society are internally imposed by... What the hell are you talking about? Like, honestly. And also, if there's any expectations on women, like being thin, I'm sure you would immediately say that those aren't internally imposed, even though it's a woman deciding to only eat lettuce and weigh herself 6 times a day. Like, she's got nobody, she doesn't have like the weight loss gremlin assigned to her by society that bites her eyeballs out if she doesn't do what it says. You know, like there's no force being applied on her except internal. But you would probably say that that is an external force being applied on women. All right. Again, I invite you to go look at those list of icks. I read those things and I'm like, if a man,
we went through them. We went through them once, I think.
Yes, if a man in any way expresses anything that indicates that he is a life form or a mammal, then he is an ick.
If you don't want to blame women, just say society. Yeah. And then everyone pretends like it's men.
Yes, it's like when he says society, he means men. Like that's
well, he said he knows it's women, but he can't say women, so he says society, and that puts men in the heads of people that listen. Oh yeah, men, they run everything, right? They run society. Anyway.
You're taught at a young age, and your expectations for yourself are molded a certain way at a young age. They solidify before you get old enough to challenge them, and you don't even think about challenging them. And
they're internal, are they?
That's the way.
No, they solidify. So like my homophobia, which is just like essentially I'm homophobic because I'm straight. My homophobia was socialized into me by society, and like when I turned like of age to where I started noticing girls, it had solidified. So now it's like this calcified thing in my nutsack that prevents me from being feminine. Apparently, I think that's how it works. I don't know what the science of it is, but
even though you were groomed into it as a child, these are your chosen standards that you've applied. Because you see, as you were growing, Brian, there was an elder Brian who was grooming you.
Yeah, my mother, mostly it was my mother, who was also, but basically my mother was just a skin suit being worn by my father, who was being worn by society. And they were the ones that calcified this thing in me.
The collective actions of all men in society.
Like some kind of Shub-Nugaraf.
And the funny thing is that all of this bullshit is to avoid blaming women. And of course, you all know that I blame women and nobody can stop me. All right, so let's
okay. The way you see things. That's the way you think things should be.
That kind of mindset, 99.9% of the time, he's also going to be a misogynist. Also, he is going to view things that are feminine as beneath him, as lower, as something that he just should not do and he should avoid at all. Like,
no, why is he attracted
other people
to
conditioning those boys
like,
that
seriously,
like,
this is the big elephant in the room. These masculine men, what are they attracted to? Femininity in women. They're not exactly attracted to masculinity in women. And you probably consider that some kind of femophobia too, that they don't want masculine women. These masculine men want feminine women. If they desire it, how are they treating it as lesser? If they revolve their lives around acquiring it, how is it lesser? Just because a man doesn't want to turn into gold doesn't mean he doesn't value gold. I'm just saying.
No, what happened to Midas?
Yeah,
Midas.
No. That's what I did to his daughter, and then he was like,
yeah, exactly. Yes, Art Fours. This is literally a homosexuality as nurture argument. They're saying that homosexuality, like gender theory, all of it, it's all learned behavior. It's not biological. You're not born this way. So it's weird, right? It's like we go from biology to social constructivism and back again. It just depends on what you need to win.
You can't play with a certain toy. You can't wear a certain color because that makes you girly or that makes you gay. They were like beat and like taught that from adults. And then when they got to school, other little boys were doing the same thing to them. They were also teaching them like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? That's so gay. Yeah. Are you giving me a hug? I don't even.
Do boys
I don't
really do
even-
that?
But like, oh, a hug, that's so gay. Whatever. They would literally bully other boys for doing certain things. So yeah, if another boy was feeling like, oh, I can cry, or I can express myself, or I can wear a certain kind of like clothing or whatever, and they didn't feel shame when they were putting it on before, like, or like if their parents didn't traumatize them and make them feel that way,
Yes,
when they went
they
to school,
did.
you just believe they were about to be.
I don't know. I mean, it just sounds like she's just saying this happens, no data, just not even an anecdote.
Well, I
It's
mean, I'm
just
sure
like
it does
claim.
that they do get bullied.
Yeah,
you know-
of course. Like, yeah, and I don't know, maybe there's some benefit to some of that. Like, I don't know. Because like what is it? What happens when you deny children nothing and they never counter resistance? I'm not saying that we have to bully kids, but I'm just saying like I experienced some bullying when I was in school. I think that I'm, a better person for it because I probably would have become a bully myself otherwise. I don't know.
Mm.
Maybe like again, I think that there's a line you could draw. I'm not saying that abuse is okay, but I'm saying this is the way children socialize. Some of it is a little bit messy, but I don't know. I think she's the bully.
Yes, because
How about
she's
that?
trying to establish moral dominance, and he's okay
Yeah.
with that. He likes the dichotomy. Because when women have moral dominance for nothing, he has an identity of service, and that's what he wants,
Mhm.
probably. All right, do we have to like? I mean,
this is his
ultimately,
like. Yeah, that's basically what he says.
106K subscribers. Wow.
Well, he's a bread tuber, so most of his followers are probably fake, and he benefits from the algorithm. I'll just put it that way. He
Yep.
benefits.
Okay.
The algorithm loves him.
I'm just trying.
Oh.
I'm just scrolling through all of my little effects and finding ones that I like.
On the screen behind you.
Yeah, have you noticed it's been
Yeah.
changing?
Yeah, I mean, I've been focused on this, but I have noticed every so often I'll glance over and see it. All right, so Xander Hall just kind of co-signs everything she says. I kind of want to give him one more chance to say something. So I'm going to play a little bit more.
We're about to get that beat out of them. They have been taught for so long to see things that are feminine as beneath them and as disgusting and as something that you should just completely avoid because you don't want to get judged, you don't want to seem gay, and if you do seem gay, that is the worst, most disgusting thing you could ever possibly be. Paying attention to like the whole Diddy situation. The Diddy situation made me so.
All right, I'm going to jump ahead here. I think is he going to talk here somewhere?
Oh my God, are you insane?
Wait, you just fucking
Exactly.
Here it is. This is it.
Exactly. That's what I thought she was gonna say. People have this weird thing where they will not actually cancel someone like they would anyone else until you are a perfect target. And Diddy didn't become a perfect target until people found out that he was gay. That's when all of a sudden the critical mass of people necessary had decided they're dropping him. Yeah, no, why you paused it right there? I'm sorry. Bad pause screen.
All of her
he
screens
doesn't
are
have any
like that.
good. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
dude.
look at
It's not your fault. I know you're going to take responsibility because that's the way you structure your identity as a man.
I do think that people did not like it wasn't okay. It depends on where you're looking with the Diddy situation, but just to put it out there, I think people had a problem with him way before we found out what happened at these freak out parties or whatever he called them. People are talking about what happened to Justin Bieber, and yeah, maybe it is the abuse of young boys that's the problem, and maybe that's okay that we like take issue with that for a change. But I don't think, like I said, I don't think Diddy was gay. I think that he was like, how Anne Rice vampires from Anne Rice novels, they've been alive for so long that they just want to fuck dudes because they fucked so much pussy that they don't like, they're kind of bored of it and they just want to try something different. I think that like when you get enough ass from women, you start thinking, well, let me just try this over here. And I think that
total hedonist, so why
yeah,
not?
I mean, like I'm saying, like if you're completely like full on, Greek orgies, like in like ancient Greece, like just going at it with whoever's around. I don't know. Like I think again, I think that's transcending gayness. I think that there are gay men who just want like relationships, monogamous relationships with gay men, and then there are men and women who go to orgies and they just fuck
They're all
everything.
hanging.
And not
Yeah.
men, women, and whatever, like jellyfish, animals, octopi, whatever's around, like whatever.
Don't
right?
fuck jellyfish. That might be
No,
severely
no,
bad
that's
for you.
I mean, unless you're into that. Like I'm saying, I'm just saying
No,
some people
you
are.
probably you could be into that briefly, and then the venom.
No, I know, but I'm saying that you get to a point. Okay, I think horny has like you break the sound barrier, you break the horny barrier, and then you start trying everything new. So I don't think people had a problem with Diddy. Like it wasn't the sex with men, unless you're talking about, and this is the thing too, that this is another one of these like third rails that these progressives don't want to touch. In the black population, there's a strong like sentiment against homosexuality, against sodomy, right? It is frowned on big time because black people generally are very conservative sexually. So they're not like, even though they will participate in the identity politics, they don't like the gay stuff. They don't like the trans stuff at all. Like that is for sure. Okay. So she could be talking about a real phenomenon with other black men because most black men are not down with that, even though there are a lot of black men that are on the down low. But I digress. But that is an issue, especially in the rap game. But again, I think that has less to do with attraction and more to do with exploitation.
She looks like she's on the teacup ride at Disney.
Yeah, right. Going down the road, like she's
the
getting blasted with wind.
Yeah, this has been quite the series of like vignettes of this woman.
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to move on?
Anyway,
to the next one,
so yeah, we can do it. No, this is
there
basically
more excellent simpery.
No, not really. This is most of it. He's just saying, oh, she's really based or whatever. He doesn't even know what based means. Okay, so NobaFan21 gives $1 and says, Cat from The Devil May Cry remake. You crying as a man doesn't make you a girl, but it does make you a bitch. All right, thank you for that. Okay, so yeah, I mean, like for example, somebody in the chat just said blacks are the second most homophobic. The Muslims are number one. Like, I don't like the word homophobia. I think all of these allegations of bigotry words are useless and bullshit. But yeah, I mean, like you can't like Queers for Palestine. That just doesn't
Yeah,
work.
it's a little bit odd.
Right. So or gays against Islamophobia. Like they're trying to make things fit together that don't. But anyway, let's go on to the last video. I want to make sure I didn't miss any super chats or anything. I don't think I did though. Do you want to do any like shills before I move on to the couple clips from this?
Sure. If you would like
people to
If you'd like to support the show, feedthebadger.com/support. Make sure that we are able to continue to create this content for you, which is I think our content basically just questions the unquestionable foundational assumptions that all of these people make. Like all of them. And I'm actually really surprised because when I said that I think it's about moral dominance with that woman, I mean, she hadn't really necessarily said anything that was particularly like a smoking gun, shall we say? But then she went into the whole fresh and fit and what they do, and really all they're doing, in my opinion, from what I've seen, is just poking the bubble of pomposity in a lot of modern women, and just showing up how their moral dominance is so empty. It's not based on anything. Their self-righteousness is vacuous. And I don't see that as misogyny. I can only see that as misogyny if you come from the premise that if men don't submit to you morally, there's something wrong with them, that they hate women. Okay? And they also poke holes in women's victimhood, which is how women establish their moral dominance over men. So, I mean, we talk about, I got a little in the weeds, but my overall point is that we talk about the things that nobody else wants to, which is the foundational assumptions underneath all of these men and all of these women, which is a very strict arrangement of men and women in the relationship between the two. And if you would like to support that, you can do so at feedthebadger.com/support. And And I'd like to do a big thank you to Anonymous, who I think a little bit before the show started put in $2,000. So thank you, Anonymous.
Woo! Thank you.
Yeah, very much
Wow.
appreciated.
Yeah.
And also I would like to thank everybody who put in super chows. And if you would like to also send us a tip throughout the show, and with that tip, you have the option to send a comment. So feedthebadger.com/justthetip to do that. And and also thank you for Richard Beer for suggesting this.
Yeah.
Insofar
Thank
as
you.
I can thank you for that.
Yeah. All right. So this video is from Jamie Dodger, and they have 1.13 million subscribers. So massive channel.
Woohoo.
I thought before, I think I said at the beginning of the show, this person is a trans man, but now I'm looking at this and I don't think they didn't say trans man or woman, but they did say they were trans. So trans something. But the Adam's apple is telling me that might be a man-born male, a person-born male that may be in the midst of transitioning to female. So I could be wrong about
But
their trans
also
identity.
they question every aspect of gender except that men are to blame.
Yes, except that this is where it gets interesting, because this person's take on gender identity is different from the other two. It's counter to that.
Oh, really?
So yes, and I will explain if they say it in the beginning here. I know they do say it at least a couple times in this video, but we're gonna start. Okay, so this person is responding to a video that looks like a series of illustrations telling a story about someone who was bullied for expressing like homophobic views, supposedly. So here we go.
All of a sudden, though, she asked, "Hey, have you heard of the LGBT plus community?"
Did that happen? Why am I feeling already like this is a fake scenario? I was just waiting for the bus with my friend and she asked me this really random question. Oh my god.
Yes, I had. Is this the last question? No, but almost. Do you support gay and lesbians? Like the people who are in the LGBT community?
Oh, there's like a pause and I'm being held in suspense. Does that sound like a natural conversation to you? Because it doesn't to
A
me.
lot of these don't.
Yeah, I mean, yes, they don't, but here we are. You're responding
Yep.
to it.
Okay.
Like, this could have been dismissed, but you're making a video on your 1 million plus channel and you're saying, why am I responding to this video that I'm currently obviously responding to? But okay.
Yeah.
But also, if
Well, we
that were
sometimes do
something
that
that
too,
came
fair
up, there
enough.
potentially would be a reason to ask it, and I don't think there's anything wrong with just being like, hey, especially if you're LGBT plus yourself, just to confirm, make sure you're comfortable.
Do I give her my honest opinion? Or should I lie? Maybe I should just tell her what I think will make her happy. But what if it's not the right answer she wants to hear? I mean, she's my friend. I'm sure we'll be fine.
Oh my god.
After a quick pause, I gave her my reply. No. She tried.
Do you support the LGBT?
So, you know what? All of that she wrote, all of that makes perfect sense. You're in school, so you're obviously a younger person. Someone puts you on the spot. Essentially, are you an ally or are you a bigot? And you're on the spot. You have to answer. Like, yeah, I get all that. And this guy's like, I don't understand why this is a problem. Do you not think I'm a human being? It's not as simple as that.
In the 90s, when this actually mattered, I supported gay rights, and I would say no.
You would? What do you mean?
Well, I mean, because I don't like this being used as a wedge issue. Like, I don't like this, like, putting people on the spot, seeing them as lesser because they have an opinion about something. I mean, first of all, it doesn't help if somebody does have genuine beliefs about these issues. I mean, I've gotten into fights with conservative commentators over stuff to do with gay fathers and gay marriage and stuff like that. And I've supported those things. But if you're going to come out and start to make this a wedge issue rather than something that's a matter of debate, it's just like that. It isn't about supporting people. It's about excluding people. And I'm not part of that. I am not part of that. I don't want to see it. Like I honestly, I don't. People should have the right to their opinions. Like when there was a Catholic nunnery in my province who used to put on a cherry festival, and they stopped being able to do that because the government took away their grants so that they could get interns to help them with the cherry festival. So now the cherry festival doesn't exist anymore, even though they had spent generations making these cherries, breeding these cherries to actually live in this particular climate. This government has decided, because a bunch of nuns have an opinion on gay men or gay people that is in line with their religion, they no longer can be supported in their festival, even though the festival is like open to anyone. And their opinion doesn't really harm anyone. Unless you want to be a Catholic nun, I guess, and also gay, which, I mean, you can do that. You just can't have sex. Like,
But I mean, if you're straight and you become a nun, you can't have
yeah,
sex.
you can't have sex. Like, it's so but it's just like, I understand a lot of the concern over this, but this is not the way you approach it. Not by exclusion, not by using it as a way of ostracizing people. But anyway, so
Well, especially like children. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of a, that's kind of messed up.
And
And of
to-
course, this guy is going to side with, well, go ahead. We're going to say.
Well, and the other thing is, I don't necessarily support all of the planks in the platform. Like, I don't think you should necessarily force acceptance
Yeah.
in certain areas. And I think that, yes, Catholic nuns should be able to have their own opinion, and it shouldn't have to be consistent with something that's state sanctioned. And if they're putting on an activity that benefits the community, they shouldn't have to necessarily toe a particular line, a particular political line in order to do it. Like,
Mhm.
this is the stuff that I believe. And so yeah, no, I'm pretty sure he's going to go with, oh yes, this is a horrible person now.
Yeah, let's listen.
LGBT plus community. No.
To hide it, but I saw the shock on her face. She smiled awkwardly and said, "Oh, okay." I had no idea what that meant.
It means that your friend is surprised that you're a bigot. I don't know how old these people are meant to be. I think it's probably very telling of maybe home influence when people are kids on their opinions and things. I'm intrigued by the expression of like surprise that caused an uncomfortable reaction from the
What
friend.
does it?
No, it
what
is.
what is it that you're requiring her to support? Because if she
Yeah,
supports
what does it
your
mean to do that?
your rights as an individual, where's the problem?
Mhm.
But if she does not condone your lifestyle because it is not part of her religious teachings, where's the problem? I suppose your problem is that she's going to get in power, and I don't think that that's. I'm honestly, I'm pretty sure that society will collapse before that happens, and then we'll all be dealing with invaders who are probably not going to give you a very good deal.
It is kind of great that we can live in such a time that these are the issues that you are most concerned with.
Yeah.
Whether or not like people support you in this abstract sense for
Yeah.
what you have decided you are. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, but that's the thing. Like, if they support your individual rights, if they support your right for expression, they support your right for self-defense,
Mhm.
then where's the problem? Of course, they want additional rights, like they want to force people to associate with them, force people to hire them, stuff like that. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
a difficult conversation to have, and honestly, why are kids having it?
Well, we're pushing it on now in school and stuff. So now,
Why
yeah,
is it
like
even
it was
appropriate?
something I didn't even have to like understand until I was like 13 years old. And even then, I mean, it was very rare that this was a topic of conversation. So
Yeah.
LGBT plus people.
Oh, and then like, why did she react like that? Why was she not giving me a hug for not supporting gay people?
I thought of it as nothing more than an awkward and random conversation. We said bye to one another as she walked her way home, and I hopped on my bus.
Okay.
Before I went to bed, my mind kept replaying my friend's question, and why she acted so awkwardly to my answer. Why did she look like she was hiding something? Or what if she doesn't want to be my friend anymore? Am I a bad person for not supporting the LGBT plus community?
It's so victimizing.
Fuck
It's just got this
off.
vibe.
Now you are aggressing against a child. You fuck off. First of all, these kids shouldn't have this question shouldn't be playing out with really young children. Those kids don't like get out of the heads of 18, anyone under 18.
Yeah.
This is not where these questions need to play out. They play out with adults.
This is giving me the ick. Now I understand why YouTube is supporting it. 1 million plus subs. Okay. But let's hear more of this.
I don't know. I kept replaying it in my mind, and I don't know why she's upset.
She's
and
a
now I'm feeling
child.
really awkward. Did I say the wrong thing? Oh my
She's a
god! Why
child,
was she
you-
upset? Maybe she's a lesbian,
She's
Janet.
a
And the whole
child. You are bullying a child with 1 million subs. Now, I'm not going to say that you're sending your flying monkeys towards her, or you should necessarily be responsible for it. But this is what you're doing with your platform. This is a kid in a school, and you are bullying them over an issue that they shouldn't have to think about. What are they going to do? Is she going to make an executive order to remove gay people from the US? No, she's a kid. Leave her alone. Oh, I can't stand this.
Yep. I know.
evil thing. I don't think it's evil. I think particularly if people have been brought up in an environment where LGBT plus stuff is really talked about negatively in their household, and that's all they've ever known, the initial
Maybe she's
reaction
Muslim.
can be like, well, no, I don't support it.
What?
Maybe she's Muslim, dude.
We don't know. Yeah, right. I
Well,
mean,
so which ism reigns supreme here? Can you be Islamophobic and start talking about how they are against homosexuality, the LGBTQ plus stuff? Or which one do you go with? It's too bad she wasn't wearing a headscarf. He probably wouldn't have even responded.
Yep.
Okay.
Because your family doesn't support it, and you've never learned about or been shown a different attitude.
By the way,
or knowing
incoming community strike in YouTube probably.
Why?
Because I'm saying that this guy is bullying a child.
Bullying children. Oh, we'll see. Hopefully not.
Known somebody or be friends with someone who's LGBT plus, I get that perspective and why it could be confusing of okay, but I've been brought up being told that my opinion is okay, and now I've just said this. But it does feel very, I'm not getting the vibe that this is going in the direction of oh, why might this be wrong? Should I think about my opinions and challenge that viewpoint? Is it hurtful? Has it
support?
Caused harm?
This is all about support. She's not saying that she's going to go out and burn people at the stake. She just says she doesn't support the community. Well, I don't support it.
Well, what does it even mean to support? That's like you said, maybe her reasoning. And the other response was oh, and then that was the end. I mean, who's really holding the cards there? Who's the one that's going to be
well, let's find out what happens with this story.
Yeah. Let's keep going.
Said this, have I offended somebody because it's not appropriate or open-minded attitude to hold anymore? But it just feels more like oh, woe me, I could not stop thinking about it, oh dear.
The biggest thing I couldn't get off my mind was her awkward smile hiding her true emotions from me.
Probably terrified because she might be gay herself or LGBT in some way, and she's just found out her friend would not support her. And I think often those questions
would not support the community.
Yeah, it's different.
It's different.
But of course, he's going to frame it this way. So
of course, he's going to frame it in the worst way possible.
To someone coming out to somebody to be what's your opinion on this? Just trying to gauge their response. And the concept of standing there with someone who's a close friend or your best friend or whatever, and them saying that they don't support the LGBT plus community, and they in turn, likelihood is they wouldn't support you. If that was your first step to coming out, that's
not necessarily.
No.
Seriously, dude, I am bisexual and I don't support the community. I don't think what you're doing is appropriate.
You can't, yeah, I don't know. I don't ask anyone to support any community. I just
Yep.
I don't know what that means. That's it's divisive, and it's not
Mhm.
fun. Okay.
The
Okay.
cartoon from the other kid's perspective, because she's probably at home going like, oh my god, I was going to come out to her and now she won't support me and now I'm going to lose my friend.
I thought about it the entire night until I fell asleep hoping it was just a harmless question and she'd forget about it tomorrow.
Unlikely.
I walked through the hallway saying hello to my classmates and friends, and every time I did, they brushed me off or give me a dirty look. I even had a few
Ooh,
people
ooh,
ignore me.
ooh. Oh,
And
she's
then
getting bullied in school. Isn't that satisfying?
She's getting ostracized
She's
and
getting
isolated.
ostracized. Ooh,
Yeah.
just the look on his face.
I know. He's like, this is
Thrilled.
fictional and he's taking a lot of pleasure in it. I don't know.
something
Yeah.
to someone else right in front of me and then walk away. Did I do something wrong?
I feel like this person has taken the story of somebody coming out as LGBT plus and just made it their story as a homophobe. I'm trying to not be like
Oh, so
absolutely
now we're
like
at
shut down brute.
homophobe.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
support the community. Now I'm afraid
Oh
of
yeah,
gay people.
homophobe. That's what it means. This is what I mean when I say, just like the other video, right? Don't date men who are homophobes. Okay, what does that mean? What's the
Yeah.
criteria? Well,
Mhm.
apparently it's anything that people decide it is. It's the hate
Yeah.
that mutates. You
Mhm.
know, it's whatever we need it to be. Oh, you don't want to suck my trans girlfriend's dick? Well, you're a transphobe, obviously. No, you can't like this. That's what it is, though. I know it sounds extreme, but you can find videos of people making this claim. And it's a lot of it comes from women as well as trans women. And this is the same thing. Oh, you don't support, like I just presented you this abstract, thing that you have to support. I'm asking you if you support it. And by the way, asking invites the possibility of somebody saying no. That's why you ask. And so you should be open to that possible answer. But because they didn't get the answer they wanted, it's almost like, why ask the question then? So now you're going to just
Well, so that
ostracize
they
that
know.
person?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the point. It's just to make sure that they align with the expected social answer, and if they don't, you ostracize them.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why this is so confusing to this guy. Yes, this is what
Derek
happens.
Workman makes a good point. He says there is no LGBT community. That's exactly right. There's no Black community. There's no Latino community. There's just people. There's just the population.
Mhm.
There is a part of the population that is gay, lesbian, bisexual, or trans. That's it. They don't go to meetings. They don't have memberships. That's like saying there's a male community. There's no male community. There's no Black community. There's just Black population, gay population. That's it, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, it's a buzzword that is used to imply a kind of unionization of a demographic of people. That's what it's
Mm.
for. It's basically to leverage power.
Brutal
Yep.
mean, because I've personally seen people have like gut reactions when something is brought to their attention for the first time and it's something that they've been grown up either just not learning about or being taught negative things about, and it can take a while to do that unlearning and recognize what it means to be like a respectful human and the fact that there's nothing wrong with being LGBT plus, because I think not supporting it and not accepting it is believing that it's okay to think that the way that some people are born and their identities are wrong, and that is homophobic. Homophobia
Yeah, well,
is a
what do you think of
prejudice.
straight men, straight cis het men? I mean, obviously you think the identity is wrong because you have blame it for everything.
Did you catch that?
What?
Did you catch that? Let's go back a little bit. This is the thing that I stuck to. And I've heard this before. It's not like this is a surprise to me, but
Accepting it is believing that it's okay to think that the way that some people are born and their identities are wrong, and that is homophobic.
so gay people are born or gay people are made. Pick one. Because do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. The previous one was gay people are made, and then the other thing is, are trans people born or made? And if trans people are born, like then
See,
there are biological differences between the sex. Oh God.
wait, but
Yeah, but
there
we need
this
to
is the
support
thing.
all this.
They are trying to force two contradictory ideas into the same ideology at the same time all the time. So it
Yeah,
went
that's
and
supporting
it's
the
all about
community.
what is that that is all about what is useful, because if you understand that feminist queer theory as presented by, I think it's uh either Judith Butler and uh John Money and um um Alfred Kinsey and several others, I think Theodore Adorno. There's lots of queer theorists and stuff and lots of feminist queer theorists from like the 60s that said that sexual orientation and gender are all socially constructed, but also you're born that way. It's both of these things at the same time. And it can't be,
And
but
also,
it all comes down to like, well, when is it useful to me to win arguments? Oh, so he's saying you can't do that because they can't control what they are because they were born that way. And that's only because I can use it in this fashion
yes.
now. But I guarantee you there's another video on his channel floating around, at least one, if not several, that will make the opposite claim, which is that it's all socialized.
And
And
this
we're
is
all blank
important.
slates and men are taught to be men because of society.
Yeah, which is men. And then there's all the issue that this is all predicated on the necessity of maintaining women's moral dominance by a view of history that cannot acknowledge biological differences, because if it did, it'd have to acknowledge the fact that the situation of women throughout history was never due to men's malfeasance, but simple biological limitation. So all of that is behind, do you accept the community? Do you comply to the community edicts? Do you submit, Winston, to 2 + 2 = 5? And that's why I don't support the community, because it means more than just supporting the individual rights of individual people who are gay, happen to be gay, lesbian, trans, etc. It means supporting this kind of doublethink and a whole raft of very, very solipsistic, self-contradictory bullshit that all it amounts to when you look at it is it's not truth, it's not honesty, it's not integrity. It is simply, do you believe as we say you should? Kiss the hooves of Caligula's general. You know, you have to bow to my horse because
Yeah.
you bowing to an enemy general that has defeated you is one thing, but when you're made to bow to his horse and kiss its hooves, you are not just submitting militarily, you are submitting your dignity and your right to even think. And that's what it means to support this community, right? I'll tell you what I've done. All right, I was once in Amsterdam with Jonathan, and there was this drunken jackanape from the UK. And we were walking on the street, and there was this like very young lesbian couple, fairly obvious because they were holding hands, right? And
I mean, that
tiny.
could just be Amsterdam.
Yeah, it could just be. I'm pretty sure they were, but so they're holding hands, tiny little couple. So they walk past us. They walk past the jackanape, and he like bellows out, "Oh, it's a bunch of dykes!" And they immediately looked incredibly uncomfortable. And myself and Jonathan walked behind them, not too close, but not too far, to shield them from the jackanape who was being an asshole. And we actually talked about, how that person was being very rude, very disrespectful, very not preserving dignity, and how, that this wasn't an acceptable behavior to engage in public. So, and as we did that, and we didn't like get too close, but as we did it, you can tell when someone they start to relax and feel less in danger. So if a guy is going to homophobically bully anyone in public, I will stand up for them. All right. And I will say that that's not acceptable. But at the same time, this bullying isn't acceptable. And I am not going to stand for a community that itself is bullying. Right? So that's my opinion
Well,
on this entire thing.
it's just about criticizing
personal integrity.
behavior.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, this is bad behavior, right? It has nothing to do with you. But the thing is, these people use their identities to shield themselves and say, no, this is okay because my historical whatever, right? It's so yeah. If you just if you only call out the behavior, then you're going to be consistent, and that's
but I would do
good
it for
enough.
I obviously almost every day call out the behavior of bullying straight men who are cis het and not
right.
not interested in being attracted to people that they're being told to be attracted to. Like, it's the bullying that really sticks in my craw. And that's why I responded so strongly to what this guy was doing, because it was bullying. He's bullying a kid. All right.
Yeah, well, yeah. Anyway, that goes back to what I was saying. It's not about hypocrisy. It's about hierarchy. These people are they feel that they're in a position where they can treat people like this, even if they are children, because they have the moral high ground on the basis of their identity, whatever that is. And I think one of the reasons why they often will lean on they'll use the socialized version of their perspective, because it's malleable and they can always just invoke it when they need to, so that they can, but it's just an excuse to engage in bad behavior, which is bullying behavior. And they will lean on the biological stuff when it suits them as well. This is why these people are not concerned with being inconsistent. They just know that they're going to use whatever tools works. They're basically trying to find the meta and exploit it. But anyway, there isn't, I don't know if you want to watch more of this. That was like the main thing that I got from it. It just kind of keeps going from there. Essentially, this person is a homophobe. Why don't they accept being a homophobe and just like do better and try to be an ally? And also,
why did they? And they were bullied in school by the people who were trying to force them.
They were ostracized by Yeah, which is bullying, like isolating people socially, especially when you're in school, and that's like where you spend, like, as a child, that's where you spend like a majority of your life, around your peers, and you're growing up with them. So it's not a fun time. If it's probably worse to have nobody want to be around you at all than to have somebody that picks on you every day, if you think about it, because then you don't even have any friends, you don't have any allies, everyone's told to stay away from you. And I can see, and girls are really bad about that. So they're the pros basically. But anyway, so
I don't know if it's necessary. Like, this is infuriating.
I think we got the gist of it. So do you want to wrap it up then?
It is bullying, and I don't agree with it. And I certainly am not going to support a community that's okay with this. Like, first of all, these kids, why should they be having to answer these questions? Right? And this is not being used. Like, this isn't at this age. This isn't like they're going to have a philosophical discussion about how to approach the issue and use, this isn't what it's about. It's about using it as a means to exclude people at that age. They're not in a position to really discuss the intricacies of these questions. And again, I don't like bullying. I don't like it as a tactic. And I'm not going to support a community that engages in it. And I don't mean like, getting on Twitter and calling people idiots, because that's just the local color on Twitter. I mean, this kind of thing, ostracizing people, insulting them in ways that is humiliating publicly, and taking pleasure in the pain of a child. It's fucking gross.
Yeah.
All right. So I do have to thank Richard Bier, who supported 1,505. I'm not sure why he also put the $5 in, but
play this.
There you go. Yeah. So all right, thank you to Anonymous And thank you to Richard Bier. And again, I know these are some fairly larger supporters, but every bit helps. Every bit, I appreciate every bit because I know what it represents. It represents the willingness to support this kind of content, to support this approach to analyzing the issues that we're facing. And that's difficult. It's a difficult choice for people to make to support it because it's challenging. It's not necessarily about identifying enemies. It's about identifying behaviors that we are all prone to and need to overcome. So anyway, if that's a message, and I know that message isn't popular. What's popular is going into particular political divides or racial divides or sex divides or gender identity divides and trying to promote basically judging people based on their identities. But regardless, if this is a message that you'd like to support, please go to feedthebadger.com/support. And again, I just want to emphasize everyone out there, like $5, $10 is always appreciated. It's always good to see the older supporters coming back and feeling like this is worth it, and new supporters, being woken up to how important this message is. So feedthebadger.com/support. Brian will be in a moment. We'll be giving you other ways to help us out, and also feedthebadger.com/justthetip. If you want to send us a tip, if you'd like to add to that tip, just a comment. Feedthebadger.com/support. It's the very best way for you to send us a tip, feedthebadger.com/justthetip. I got myself mixed up. It's the very best way for you to send us a tip, and probably the best way for you to actually send us a comment because you get to avoid YouTube's comment enhancement system. We'll put it that way. All right, so I'll send it back to you, Brian.
All right. Yep. Sounds good. If you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today. You'll find links to all 3 videos in the description if you can watch them yourself. And please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of Maintaining Frame, and we will talk to you guys in the next video.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.